You've made the perfect plan for learning a new language. Everything has been set into stone. You know what book you're going to use, you know when you're going to study, you know it's going to take you exactly 132 days to finish the first book. At that time, you're going to buy the second book. Everything is set in stone. You know exactly how you're going to become fluent in this upcoming language. But then, something unexpected happens. A pandemic changes the scape of the world. Everything halts. Everyone's plans get thrown out the window. Quarantine happens, and all of a sudden, your plans all go down the drain. You don't know what to do. You're stressed out. And not only that, not only have all your plans been changed, now the entire world is putting stress on you. Families are getting into more and more fights. People are just getting more irritated, and you can see that the divorce rates are going up because people are spending more time with each other and getting more annoyed with each other. So now, during all of this, how do you as a person go about learning a language when you're already overwhelmed from staying at home, not being able to go outside, and being surrounded by the same people that cause you stress day in and day out? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. 안녕하세요, 클라우드입니다. Hey guys, Cloud here. Today I want to cover the topic of just mental energy, just mental health in general, and how language learning really depends on how much mental energy you can give it. We can always make an awesome plan. We can spend a whole week planning for exactly how we're going to study, but then one day someone tells us something really pisses us off or makes us cry, and then all of our language learning goals just go down the drain because we don't have enough mental capacity to spend the time studying, especially since studying isn't an easy thing to do per se, especially if it's a really hard language, like Korean, for example. Also, with quarantine, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of families are moving back into each other. People who are, dorming in college, they're coming back. You might have an extra sibling that you haven't seen or don't get along with very well. Your parents are both working from home. They're, having more issues than normal because they're together for longer periods of times and they don't have that break. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or that these are bad people or anything like that. I'm just saying because of everyone's schedule and everyone's lifestyle changing, it's not easy to adapt, and it causes all this extra stress. Feeling lonely is a big thing nowadays. A lot of people are feeling very depressed. We saw just recently a lot of really big, well-known names have committed suicide. And I'm not, attributing that to quarantine, but I'm saying that mental health, mental stress nowadays is at a high. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. And then you have someone come and tell you, hey, it's the best time to learn a language. Or, even your plans for learning a language. And you're thinking, I just can't take it. I have too much on my plate. I can't do this. So there's two ways of going about it. One way is to get some more energy, mental energy. And the way you would do that is by finding a source, going through all the sources of things that stress you out, things that make you upset, things like that, and trying to reduce them so that you have enough mental capacity to study or to learn, whether that be like if you're moved back in with your parents, if you're a college student and it's very difficult, well, spend like 2 weeks where you're talking to your parents every day, you're telling them that these are the experiences you're going through, and you're really sharing your emotions rather than your thoughts. Be very open, be a very good listener as well. And don't just go out there to prove a point, go out there to come to a conclusion. And hopefully that alleviates a little bit of stress. Obviously, each situation is different. I'm just giving an example. So alleviating stress can make it easier and can get you more motivated to learn a new language. Another thing that you can do is you can use language learning as an escape. Set aside 1 hour a day, no one bothers you during it, and all you do is, read something. It doesn't have to be like hardcore learning where you're going through a notebook or a textbook and you have your notebook outside and you're taking notes and doing all that stuff, solving problems. You don't really have to do that, especially since it's very stressful. So I think there's a time and place for everything. I definitely think there's a time for taking out your Genki notebooks or, your Sogang University book and really studying it up. But there's also time for you to just find whatever content in that language. Why do you like the language you're learning? Is it because you like a lot of their shows, or you like, if Korean, you like some artists that you follow and you watch their like V-Lives? Just watch them over again, see what they're saying. Just relax, use it as a source of relaxation and to regain your mental energy for the rest of the day, and sort of as an escape. And sure, this won't get you fluent in the language, but it'll do a couple things. One, you'll learn a little bit, and learning a little bit over the long run is so much better than learning nothing. Learning a little bit every single day is so much more effective than learning a lot of things one day a week. The more you spread it out, the more time your brain has to analyze. It has to just identify different things, and it can store it in its long-term rather than short-term memory. Another thing that it does is that it keeps things fresh. You won't forget things because you're constantly being exposed to Korean or to whatever language you're trying to learn. So that's a couple things that you can do. A third thing that you can do is you can find a language buddy, a language partner, so to speak. What this will do is that it'll take the stress from just you having to really open up a notebook or a textbook and studying, and it changes it into a more social environment. And you can obviously do this online through Skype or through Zoom or Discord or whatever, and you can just talk about the lessons. It's not it doesn't have to be a hardcore. It can just be, hey, let's talk about, the fourth lesson on this, or page 10. I understood that it's talking about A, B, and C. What do you think? Do you think that this example that I made up, do you think it's correct, or do you think the sentence could be written differently? And even if you're both wrong, that's fine. You're still getting the reps in. You're still, learning slowly. I think that's the theme of the thing. It's like, if you're overwhelmed, that doesn't mean that you have to learn. Like, you don't have to go out of your way when you're already overwhelmed, because you don't want to break yourself. You don't want to go beyond your boundaries or beyond your limits. But what you do want to do is to find a relaxing way. Find the reason why you like the language and use that to bring you up. Don't stress yourself out. Give yourself a break. Cut yourself some slack, because it's not every day that we have a 100-year pandemic. And mental health is really important for learning a language, because the fresher you are, the more motivation you have, the more discipline you can find yourself, the less lazy you are, the easier it's going to be. And if you're constantly overwhelmed with, family or social interactions, or, it could be 100 different reasons as to why you're feeling stressed in general. And to make things even worse, we have a pandemic that's causing a lot of extra stress. So it's completely reasonable for you to be very tired, mentally exhausted all the time. So don't try to spend mental energy on learning, but rather let your language study or language exposure be a source of relaxation and a mental recharge. And that way you're kind of getting best of both worlds. And then finally, try to identify, this is a bit further away from the language learning sphere, but try to identify the reasons or the causes of your stress and try to eliminate at least one of them. Like, even if it's just one of them, actually, then that's a big boost, because now all of a sudden, instead of feeling overwhelmed, you actually feel like, hey, I can take this. It's a little bit less than it was 2 weeks ago, and it's something that, it's not as hard as it was. And even if you don't use that extra mental capacity or mental energy that you have on language learning, at least you have it. At least you feel more relaxed. It's a win-win situation. So those are my thoughts on what's going on with a lot of people feeling very stressed out and wanting to learn a language and beating themselves up for it. You really shouldn't. You really don't need to. Just relax and just tell yourself, hey, every 100 years, or it's not every year that we have a pandemic like this. And, in the past, it could have been a war. It could have been something worse. So we just kind of have to deal with the hand that we're dealt. and hopefully when things get better, we can go back to our regular lifestyle. But as of now, there's nothing we can really do. I do plan on talking about some other factors where I know I've experienced this a lot, where some students or some people will just say, hey, I really want to learn this language, but my parents don't want me to learn it, or they're not letting me learn it for one reason or the other. And that's another thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about a lot of reasons why we don't learn a language, from the mental health point of view of feeling stressed out or beating yourself up too much, or just being really shy and wanting to be 100% perfect and not speaking because of it. There's a lot of reasons that can hold someone back, and I want to touch up on some of those reasons. So I'll see you guys next time.